So we'll just begin. We've had our nice little kirtan. Thank you very much. You're shy, but you can sing. That's a good combination. This Thursday, we'll be celebrating the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev. Nice painting of Lord Nrsingadev. A little background. Let's ask both of you two boys. The younger one first. When you think of Lord Nrsingadev, what comes to your mind? What's something about Lord Nrsingadev? When you hear his name, what do you think of?
Say something about Nrsingadev.
You just sang a song about him. So when you think of him, there he is, Lord Nrsingadev.
Did you understand? What do you think of Nrsingadev? Something you tell about Nrsingadev.
Nrsingadev was like killing Hiranyakashipu.
He's what?
Killing Hiranyakashipu.
He killed Hiranyakashipu. He sure did. How about you?
When I hear Nrsingadev, I think of Prahlad Maharaj.
You think of Prahlad Maharaj. Okay. What's the form of Lord Nrsingadev?
Yeah.
So that's one of his names. Nara Simha. Nara means man and Simha means lion.
It's going live now.
So have you ever seen a form like that before? Half man, half lion. Very, very different. Very different. So
I turned it off.
this form of Nrsingadev, he has his place in Vaikuntha. Over the past several days, we've been hearing about Vaikuntha. And normally one thinks of the form of Narayana in Vaikuntha being a form that's 4 arms, blue complexion, yellow dhoti, symbols of Vishnu in his hands. It's a standard picture. Crown, ornaments, and so forth. The appearance of Lord Narayana in Vaikuntha. However, one of the Vaikuntha planets is Nrsinga's planet, and he descends into this world from time to time. And there are those who are his devotees that really adore this form, and that's what the form that they see. It's an eternal form. And he shows that form to those who have love for him in this way. And from time to time he comes in this world. He's one of the Leela avatars, forms of the Lord that appear and perform a pastime. In particular, the pastime of Lord Nrsingadev is, just like you said, protecting Prahlad. And for the devotee, Lord Nrsingadev is very calming, very soothing, very peaceful, very affectionate. And for the non-devotees, he shows intensity. Here's a nice verse. Those who like Chaitanya Charitamrita like to recite this verse. Shri Nrsinga, Jaya Nrsinga, Jaya Jaya Nrsinga, Prahlada Desha, Jaya Padma, Mukha Padma Bringha. And the translation reads from Chaitanya Charitamrita, all glories to Nrsingadev, all glories to Nrsingadev, who
is the Lord of Prahlad Maharaj, and, like a honeybee, is always engaged in beholding the lotus-like face of the goddess of fortune. So, Prahlad Nrsimha, Lakshmi Nrsimha, or sometimes in the deity form, there's Lakshmi Nrsimha, the Lakshmi seated on the lap of Nrsimhadev, and Prahlad with folded palms before them. And sometimes Prahlad is in the lap of Lord Nrsimhadev. And he's very soft and kind and gentle to his devotees, but to the non-devotees, he's very fierce, Ugra Nrsimha. So we, in our ISKCON temples, many temples have this painting on the wall, or at least a painting of Nrsimhadev of some kind on their altar, marking what your brother said, which is he finished Hiranyakashipu. And there's a long picture, which we're going to cover in the beginning parts of this coming week, about why this story is, the context of this story being narrated from the very beginning of Canto 7. Maharaj Parikshit is hearing from Shukadev Goswami about the features of the personality of Godhead, and is the personality of Godhead equal to everyone? Looks like he's partial to Prahlad. Look at the painting. And doesn't have the same mood towards Hiranyakashipu. So he looks partial towards the devotee and against the non-devotee. But the Lord is supposed to be neutral. Samoham sarvabhuteshu. So we'll be discussing this next week, coming week. But the feature of Hiranyakashipu, the long story, goes back to what we heard already, Jai and Vijay. Remember? Jai and Vijay, they went to the gates of like 7th gate, and the 4 Kumaras went to the 7th gate. Jai and Vijay didn't let them in, so they were cursed. So Hiranyakashipu was the first incarnation of those two, and his brother Hiranyaksha. And both were destroyed by Lord Vishnu in different ways, with a interesting battle scene proceeding. Indradumna Maharaj told the story once. I heard it more than once. He was from a nice American family, wealthy, well-educated, kind of, comfortable American family. And when their son became a Hare Krishna devotee, they panicked. Uh-oh, what's he doing? He's not going to be, wealthy and prosperous and doing the material thing like we're doing. They thought he would get over it, but he didn't get over it, so they came to visit. And at that time he was in Detroit. And his mother came. And when his mother came to the temple, she walked in the temple, and just to the side of the door is this painting on the wall. And she was, is this the Lord that you worship? And then he had to explain Lord Nrsimhadev. So worldly people don't understand. But the personality of Godhead, in his act of destroying Hiranyakashipu, gave him liberation. To be completely freed from all of the reactions of all of his misdeeds. And he appeared specifically to give protection to Prahlad. He's the protector of the devotee, and particularly protective of those who are fully sheltered in him. And following that, Prahlad offered very, very beautiful prayers, very significant section of Srimad Bhagavatam, very much love section of Srimad Bhagavatam. So how did it come to be that this very pure personality, Prahlad, became the son of Hiranyakashipu. Well, there's different descriptions. One of them is the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, sent him into this world to teach the way of pure devotional service. That's one of the explanations that's given. So he appeared as the son of Hiranyakashipu, and his mother's name was Kayadu. Kayadu. And as it happened, because Hiranyakashipu was not just a terrorist somewhere in the Middle East, he was a terrorist all over the world. Not only over the world, he was a universal terrorist. And everyone was intimidated by him. And so he took over the kingdom of heaven. Battle with Indra. Indra lost. Get out. And Hiranyakashipu took over. He's ruling heaven and earth. And that wasn't good enough for him. He wanted to be in that position forever. So there's one way to be in that position forever, and that's you live eternally. So he wanted to become eternal, immortal, couldn't die. So he decided to do what people did during those days. When they wanted something, they would go perform some austerities in order to fulfill their desire. And it's very, very severe austerities. You know what his austerity was? He put his arms in the air and stood on his toes. That's it, it's a kind of like a yoga asana. But he didn't just do that for, 10 seconds or 10 minutes, 10 years. He did it for 100 celestial years, and that's a long time. So much so severe, I'm not moving. He didn't eat anything, he didn't drink any water, and didn't, go for a walk. He just stood there on his toes. Ants started to eat away at his body. When it's like to get an insect bite. But they ate away his body. But he had some power that he could take his life air and circulate his life air within the hollow of his bones. So his body was completely gone. But his life air was within the hollow of his bones, and the whole big mound was a mound of ants. Very, very severe. He was not an ordinary personality. And the whole universe was shaken by the power of his austerity. So the demigods went to Brahma and said, help, do something. So Brahma went and he poured water from his water pot, and the body of Hiranyakashipu became restored to young and beautiful. The ants were washed away. And he wanted to know from Hiranyakashipu, what's the purpose behind all these very severe austerities? I want to become immortal. He said, well, I'm sorry. I can't make you immortal because I don't have it to give you. Even I have to die. So then he made a plan where one by one, I can't be killed in this way, that way, the other way. You know the story, right? So all those benedictions were granted. And Hiranyakashipu thought, well, now I'm immortal because no one can kill me this way, that way, the other way. I won't die in the daytime, in the nighttime, or in the land or the sea or the air, and so on and so on. Indoors or outdoors, so on. very clever, but we know who's more clever than clever. And that's the personality of Godhead. So while he was away in the forest doing his austerities, the demigods were advised by their spiritual master, Brihaspati, while he is away, you can take the kingdom back. So they went with their army, and the soldiers of Hiranyakashipu fled in all directions. They regained the capital city of Indra, and lo and behold, they found the wife, Kayadu, who was pregnant at the time. So they captured her, and they were planning to take her away. And Narada Muni came just at the right time, said all the right things. He asked, "What are you doing? She's a woman. Don't harm her." "No, we're not planning to harm her, but she's pregnant, and the child of Hiranyakashipu is within her womb. So we were planning to wait until the child is born, and then the demoniac child of this demon Hiranyakashipu kill the child." He said, "No. The child in her womb is a great personality, in fact, a great devotee. And so you entrust her to me, and I'll keep her safe." So just at the word of Narada, they stopped and turned Kayadu over to Narada. And here we see she had a special place somewhere in his ashram, and each day, regularly, Narada would describe transcendental topics, and Kayadu was very peacefully hearing, and so was also the child within her womb. So that's where Prahlad was, and Kayadu, asked for a benediction from Narada. And the benediction she wanted was, "This child not be born until my husband returns from the forest with his austerities." Good thing he returned from his austerities, because she would have been really in a big problem. But when he returned, she went back to the palace, and Prahlad was born. But all the while, Prahlad was hearing the same thing his mother was hearing. And when he came to school age, they sent him to the school. Now, in our ISKCON terminology, we call the school for children, particularly for boys, Gurukula. You've heard of Gurukula, right? Gurukula. So this was a little different. It wasn't a Gurukula. It was a school to train little asuras, demons. So we call it Asura Kula. Kind of like what modern schools are also. And Prahlad wasn't interested in becoming an asura, he was interested in bhakti. And so one day when the teachers left the classroom, what do boys do when a teacher leaves the classroom? They want to play. So Prahlad said, no. Let's, instead of playing when we're little, let's do bhakti. And bhakti is meant at any stage of life. There's this celebrated verse, Komara acharet pragyo dharman bhagavataniha. So he speaks to his classmates a whole chapter's worth of teachings about bhakti. And when they heard this, they really liked it. But they then asked him, "Where'd you learn this? We didn't hear this from any of our teachers. They don't teach us stuff like this. Where'd you hear it?" And he told the story. "I heard it from Narada when I was in the womb of my mother, and my mother forgot everything, but I remembered everything." And then he told some more about the teachings of bhakti. And in the end, they're up and having kirtan, dancing and singing the names of the Lord. And just when the kirtan was at a crescendo, in comes Sandanamarka. Sandanamarka panicked, and they ran to Hiranyakashipu and said, "What was going on? Your son is the devotee of your greatest enemy, Lord Vishnu." So when Hiranyakashipu came to hear that, he threatened Prahlad, I'm going to kill you. So he ordered his servants to have him killed. But it didn't work because Vishnu protected him. There was a scene where Prahlad was placed in the midst of poisonous serpents, with his assistants taunting him with their weapons. But the serpents didn't harm him. And all the while he was just peaceful, remembering the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Then they tried trampling him underneath the feet of a wild elephant. That didn't work either. Somehow Prahlad was protected. They tried throwing him off a cliff to the jagged rocks below, but Lord Vishnu caught him before he hit the rocks. They put him in fire. Nothing happened. And so on. Many different ways of trying. When he was unable to kill him, for the first time in his life, Hiranyakashipu became afraid. And he was afraid because he's now found somebody more powerful than him, and it's his son. Try as he may to try to harm him, nothing could harm him. And so he had Prahlad brought before him. There's more details, but he confronted Prahlad and asked him, "You're more powerful than me. How is this possible? Where are you getting your power from?" You know what Prahlad's answer was? Do you remember? I can't hear you. Can you remember what he said?
Lord Vishnu?
Yeah. He said, I'm getting my power from the same place you're getting your power from Vishnu. That's not what Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear. Oh, Vishnu. Where is this Vishnu? And Prahlad's answer?
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. Oh, he's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Let him come out of the pillar and save you, because I'm going to chop off your head with this sword. He was a mean guy. That's his son. So one version says with his sword he smashed the pillar. The Bhagavatam verse says with his fist he smashed the pillar. And from the pillar came a loud roaring sound, and the form of Lord Nrsingadev came jumping forth with many arms and gnashing teeth and sharp claws and ready for battle with Hiranyakashipu. Different images of Lord Nrsingadev coming out of a pillar. And the many-armed Lord Nrsingadev doing battle with Hiranyakashipu. You see in the background the pillar is flying in all directions, the broken pillar. And a battle ensued. Over to our right, you see little Prahlad. And here is another battle scene with the roaring Lord Nrsingadev and back and forth, and so many Hiranyakashipu slipping from his hand, and so many things. Bloody battle scene. The demigods who had requested the personality of Godhead to appear and protect them from Hiranyakashipu were in anxiety. Finish him, finish him. And so he took the body of Hiranyakashipu, dragged him to a place that was neither inside nor outside. It was on the veranda. It was neither on the land or the sea or the air, but on his lap. He wasn't using any man-made weapon, but it was his nails. It was neither man nor animal nor demigod, but half man, half lion. And all of the other stipulations that Brahma had given his benediction for, they were consciously and purposely upheld by Lord Nrsingadev. And he ripped open the body of Hiranyakashipu. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Hiranyakashipu in a flash, he was just finished. And our lower left is Prahlad. Now, Prabhupada would sometimes ask, how can a son sit there and watch his father being bifurcated like this? Because Prahlad knew that his father was being liberated. Not just his body was being dismembered, but his soul was becoming freed from all the reactions and placed in a sinless condition. So it's a celebrated pastime pictured by many different artists. There you see his intestines being draped around the body of Lord Nrsingadev like a garland, because that's described. Many different cultures have portrayed this pastime in different ways. This particular painting is called the Nila Nrsinga, blue Nrsinga. And another painting, there's also Prahlad. ISKCON art is the best. This is a Russian artist. The painting is in the Delhi temple. Here it looks like Hiranyakashipu is in his pajamas. And here his legs are spread, and the arms of Lord Nrsingadev are spreading his legs and ripping him. Down on the ground are his sword. On one side is Prahlad, and the other side is the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Arisen style. Broken pillar. Okay, so there's so many other paintings of this celebrated event. The demon, the universal terrorist, has been killed. And when he was killed, the associates of Hiranyakashipu came rushing forward by the hundreds. Powerful soldiers with their weapons, and the Lord roared even louder and manifested more arms and was picking up the soldiers, dropping them dead on the ground and strewing the whole arena with dead bodies, big bloody mess, until they were all dead and finished. And the Lord was then still roaring. Not only Hiranyakashipu was dead and all of his associates were dead, but he was still angry that Prahlad had been dealt with the way that he had been by his father. Even he's now dead. So that there's a long section, whole chapter. The demigods offer their prayers one by one. And still Lord Nrsingadev was not pacified. So finally Lord Brahma came to Prahlad with Lord Shiva. The two of them appealed to Prahlad, you go forward and offer prayers to the Lord, because he appeared for you, and apparently only you are the one that can pacify him. And so under the order of his superiors, you see Goddess of Fortune Lakshmi on the left side. She was also very afraid of this form and the anger of Lord Nrsingadev. So he moved forward and offered it. There's a long section of beautiful and very important prayers of Prahlad. Lord Nrsingadev responded, some interaction between the two, and the pastime closes. So you see in the text here, Bhakti Vigna Vinasha. Bhakti Vigna Vinasha means he who destroys all difficulties on the bhakti path. And we're going to hear some more about this. Because in addition to protecting Prahlad, he protects anybody who engages in bhakti, and he protects them from the difficulties on the path of bhakti. So one of our ISKCON sannyasis was given this name. I mean, of course, Swami at the end, but Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Nrsimha. Swami. I mean, I just know him as Nrsimha Swami, but the full name is this one. Or at the end of Kirtan, especially those devotees that are Nrsimha Bhaktas, when at the end of the Nrsimha Kirtan, they'll say, Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. So now you know what it means. This pastime is a celebrated pastime within the Bhagavatam, and other portions of the Puranas also describe this pastime. And the Srimad Bhagavatam recitation was a common practice that the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would participate in. This is a painting that was commissioned by Prataparudra Maharaj. Now we have a viewing audience, they may not know who is Prataparudra. He was the king in all of Orissa. Actually, it was a larger tract than just Orissa today. It extended all the way down to Chennai, Madras, and further north than it does today. It was a very large kingdom. And there is Prataparudra in the foreground, paying his obeisances before Lord Chaitanya and his associates. The person who is reciting Bhagavatam is Gadadhar Pandit, and the two in the center, just beneath the tree, with the shaved head, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to his right, or to our left, is Lord Nityananda. And behind them, with long hair, that's Advaita Acharya. And other personalities in the painting, there's a Bengali version that says who's who. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Roy in Srup Damodar, and hanging up his clothes over there on the right side, that's Haridas, although he looks a little chubby, probably was thinner than that. And Rupa and Raghunath Das Goswami. So it was a regular activity. If you were the king during the time of Lord Chaitanya and a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and you wanted to commission a painting with a qualified painter or artist, one might think they'd picture kirtan, but he's picturing reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which tells us that this is something that regularly took place with the devotees. It's commemorating, this is the offering his respects, king, before the devotees coming together and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And we know from the life of Lord Chaitanya, this was a daily practice. Not exactly like that, but like this. This is the deity of Tota Gopinath. In a daily practice, Lord Chaitanya would rise early in the morning. He'd go to the Jagannath temple and he'd see the morning offering, Upalabhog it's called, and the pujari would come and give him some prasad and some garlands and other deity paraphernalia, and then Lord Chaitanya would go to visit Haridas. And with Haridas, he'd give him the prasad of Jagannath and spend some time discussing Harikatha with Haridas. And then he'd move on and go each day to the Tota Gopinath temple, pictured here, the deity, and he'd engage in kirtan and dancing before the deity. And one can only imagine what that was like. He's Krishna himself in the mood of Radha the chief of the Gopi associates of Krishna, coming before Gopinath and singing and dancing before Gopinath in ecstatic love. And then, after chanting and dancing and respecting the deity, he'd sit down and hear Gadadhar Pandit, who's the embodiment of Radharani, and Gadadhar Pandit would recite to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, in the mood of Radharani, the message of Krishna in Bhagavatam. Gosh, it's out of sight. And this would happen every day. The painting, the photo, if you look closely at the bottom, you'll see Gopinath has 2 legs. But that's only during the month of Kartik, because after that those 2 legs are taken away, and the other form of the other 11 months of the year, it's the form that you see on the top, because the Gopinath deity is in an unusual position. He's seated cross-legged on the altar. And the reason for that is given that the deity used to be standing, but when Gadadhar Pandit was feeling the pain of separation from Krishna, from Lord Chaitanya, after Lord Chaitanya departed, he didn't have the strength to place the crown on the deity and the garland on the deity and the ornaments on the deity. So the deity made it easier. He sat down. But before, the deity was standing, like normally. Very special. Here's a color portrayal with names of who's who, written in Bengali by some Bengali artist. So we get to hear about all of this from our founder Acharya. At least persons like me would never have heard any of this without the special mercy of our founder Acharya through printed literature making this available. So we can hear about Lord Nrsingadev and his dear devotee Prahlad. On the altar in Mayapur, there's the Nrsingadev deity has to the front and to the deity's right, or to our left, this small deity of Prahlad. So it's Prahlad Nrsinga. And this happens to be Chandan Yatra, so he's covered in sandalwood paste. Very special festival. In Prabhupada's summary or introduction to chapter 6 of chapter 6 is this talks with his students, his friends. Prabhupada writes like this. It's very important. I'll read it twice. By accepting the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, who is in the Parampara succession, one will be able to understand the mode of spiritual life. In accepting this mode of activity, there is no need for material qualifications. Now, this is a capsule summary of the whole of the message and the mood of Prahlad. He came to teach pure devotional service, so the mode of his activity was free from all material taint or contamination. Very, very exalted love. And Prahlad, said to Lord Nrsingadev, you sent me here. Vishnu sent me to this realm to teach the ways of pure devotional service, and so he does. Here's the deity of Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur. In the Nrsinga Purana, here's something about Lord Nrsingadev. Anyone who prays unto me and takes shelter of me becomes my ward, and I will protect him always from all sorts of calamities. So he'll come to give protection not only to Prahlad but to any one of us. Just pray to him, take shelter of him, become under his ward means under his care and protection, and he will protect us from all sorts of calamities. So we're going to hear some more about being protected from calamities. This feature of Lord Nrsingadev, he grants the power to destroy all obstacles in the path of devotional service. I'm going to expand on this. This is the protection, because we're practicing devotees, or trying to be, and as we practice devotional service, we find there's obstacles. Mostly there are obstacles within. But the power to overcome or destroy those obstacles comes from Lord Nrsingadev, so it's very important for us to pray to him. In the Brahma Samhita, there's this important verse, text 50, where Ganesh is being honored. Yat pada palavam yugam vindadaya kumbha dvandve pranama samaye saganadi rajaha vignan vihantam alam asya jagatrayasya govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. I put in big letters, as you can see, kumbha dvandve. You know what kumbha means? Like Kumbh Mela? You've heard of Kumbh Mela? Kumbha? You don't know? It means, it's one of the meanings is it's a pot. Kumbha. Dvandva means two. So here's the Bhaktisiddhanta's translation. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesha upon the pair of tumuli. That's his translation of Kumbha Dvandve, and protruding from his elephant head. So what does tumuli mean? That's not a common word we use in English. A tumulus is singular, and tumuli is plural in Latin. And tumulus means to bulge or swell, so like a pot, kumbha. On the top of an elephant head, there's two protruding bulges. Here's whoops, Krishna. There. On the top of the elephant's head in the front, there's two bulges. That's one of those is a tumulus, and another is called, the plural is tumuli. So I had to look the word up, because Bhaktisiddhanta's language is very, very specific. Tumulus, the word is a common usage of the word tumulus, is in some traditions a village elder or a saintly person or some honored personality would be entombed in something that's got a mound or a swell of earth to mark where their body was put to rest. And that mound or swell is called the tumulus. That's a usage of that term. A bulge or swell or a mound. So there's two of them on the top of an elephant's head, and the lotus feet of Govinda are held on those pair of tumuli. Why? In order to obtain the power for his function of destroying all obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds. That's the Brahma Samhita verse. So those that know something about Vedic rituals, one of the essential ingredients in a Vedic ritual is to pray to Ganesha to remove obstacles to achieve what is desired. So the priest wants to know from the person, what is it you wish to achieve? What's your material desire? So that's stated explicitly. Then one goes to a particular deva or demigod, offers prayers to the demigod for fulfilling this particular desire, and another prayer goes to Ganesha to remove obstacles in achieving what this person wants. So where does Ganesha get that power? He gets the power from these two protrusions on the top of his head, receiving the lotus feet of Govinda that gives him the power to remove obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds. That's material. Ganesha can't give spiritual, but he can give material benediction. Obstacles can be removed. So our Vaishnava acharyas explain that form of Govinda that has his feet on the protrusions on the top of Ganesha's head, that's Lord Nrsingadev. So we don't go to Ganesha, we go to Lord Nrsingadev for removal of obstacles on the path of bhakti. Very important function. So therefore, when we do our arti, in all ISKCON centers all over the world, regardless of where, after arti, you're doing so arti commonly follows the whole of the deity worship. Just like in the morning, we have Mangal Arti, and then we close the curtain, and then the worship. The changing of the cloth of the deity, the bathing of the deity, placing new cloth, placing ornaments, garlands, etc., crown, etc., and then offering bhoga, and then performing arti. And at the end, we sing the Shringa prayers. And the Shringa prayers are for a purpose. Just like when we came in, you were singing the Shringa prayers, right? The purpose is just supposing you made some mistake. I mean, not an intentional mistake, but some sevaparad, mistake in the worship of the deity. Nrsingadev removes whatever consequence for some unintentional mistake, because we have to bear the responsibility for mistakes that we make. But he's very kind. He removes obstacles on the path of bhakti, just as Ganesha removes obstacles in the path of material progress by Vedic rituals. So many demigod worshippers, they also address Ganesha by the same name, Vigna Vinasha, but that's for material gain. And we worship Lord Nrsingadev for removal of obstacles on the path of bhakti. It's a nice understanding, very important understanding. Just a few little important points, detailed points, but these are all now going to be coming from Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami wrote a book. One of his books was called Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Laghu means light. He called it light because his brother called his Brihat Bhagavatamrita, so he called his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, smaller version. And this Laghu Bhagavatamrita, largely, it's a description of the avatars of the Lord that appear in this world in detail, like a whole big book, just on avatars. So in one section, he's speaking about Lord Nrsingadev, so that's what I'm going to be referring to. So there's one section where he describes the preview. There's degrees of Shakti or empowerment or potency that are carried by different avatars. So he lists some. Prabhava, Vaibhava, Paravastha, or Sad Aishvarya Purna avatars. So he starts in the beginning with Shaktivesh avatars. So there's some avatars that are in that category. That's living entities that are empowered, including Kumara, the 4 Kumaras, Narada, and Prithu, bearing the Lord's potencies. But above them, more of the potency is in the Prabhava avatars, and some of those are Mohini, Dhanvantari, Hamsa, Vyasa, Dattatreya, and Shukla. They're Prabhava avatars. The Vaibhava avatars display a more superior potency than the Prabhavas. And some on that list are Matsya Kurma, Naranarayan, Varaha, Hayashirsha, Prishnigarbha, Balabhadra, and Yagya. Even more powerful are the Paravasta avatars, and Nrsimha is one of them. Nrsimha, Rama, and Krishna, who each exhibit more power than the others. And then he concludes that Lord Krishna alone is the source of all those incarnations, and no other incarnation can supersede him. Then the next section, still, this is Laghu Bhagavatamrita, all of this. He says, Lord Nrsimhadev and Rama have a very special position. This is showing the 6 opulences or bhagas of Bhagavan. And the Lord Krishna is the source of the fullness of those bhagas. These 6 qualities are fully manifest in Nrsimha, Rama, and Krishna. They are thus considered Paravasta. The relation between the other 2, the Nrsimha and Ram, and Krishna is like lamps lit from the lamp of full 6 powers, which are manifest in Krishna. This is a quote from Padma Purana, referenced in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. So here's an image that says the same thing. Here's 3 lamps, and Krishna is in the center. And from one lamp, another lamp can be lit and another lamp can be lit. So specifically the point is, within Rama and Nrsimha, the fullness of the bhagas of Bhagavan are manifested in these 2. Now normally we don't make this distinction. It's a detail that Rupa Goswami is sharing with us in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. And here's another reference from Laghu Bhagavatamrita, where Lord Nrsimhadev is spoken of in this way. The Sridhar Swami is commenting, and Rupa Goswami mentions it in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Lord Nrsimhadev appeared before the churning of the milk ocean in the reign of the 6th, or Chakshusha Manu. He appeared before the appearance of Lord Kurma. And he displays abundant power. That's already been mentioned. He gives joy to Prahlad. He destroys ignorance of the devotee. He is effulgent like the autumn moon. He possesses the head of a lion, in whose mouth resides all eloquence, in whose chest resides Lakshmi, in whose heart resides knowledge. These are statements made by Sridhar Swami, a great commentator on the Bhagavatam, cited in Rupa Goswami's writings. So these are some special features of Lord Nrsimhadev. And finally, as he appears from the pillar, shown in this depiction, when he appeared, he shook his body, and his hair shook the clouds. His glaring eyes stole the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky. His breathing agitated the seas and oceans. His roaring caused elephants to cry in fear. And elephants can be really loud. Airplanes were thrown into outer space and upper planetary systems. The earth appeared to slip from its position by the pressure of his lotus feet, and hills and mountains sprang up by his intolerable force. Now, modern science speaks something differently about how mountains are formed, but this is the reference of the scripture, and he concludes in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. This section is about Lord Nrsingadev. Though ferocious, he is as cool as the moon for his devotees. This is how Prahlad speaks also in relation to Lord Nrsingadev. So for the non-devotee, for Hiranyakashipu, anger, transcendental anger. But for the devotee, though ferocious, he is as cool as the moon. So as soon as Prahlad came before him, the anger subsided because it was meant for the non-devotee, Hiranyakashipu, and affectionate Lord Nrsingadev placed his hand upon the head of Prahlad so he could offer beautiful prayers. Here's the deity of Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur. You can see in our lower left, there's Prahlad. And another time, same backdrop but a different dress of Lord Nrsingadev. And another dress of Lord Nrsingadev. You see down in the front, there's those two brass plates. You see? Those are called yantra. Yantra. Yantra literally means machine. Yantra rudhani mayaya, from Bhagavad Gita. But yantras, another meaning is it's a depiction of the spiritual world in two-dimensional depiction. It's used in deity worship, in certain procedures. So that's why they're there on the altar. It's described in Brahma Samhita that Brahma also was aware. He meditated on his mantra. Brahma meditated on a mantra, but he was worshipping the Lord through yantra. Those are yantras. Here's Lord Nrsingadev in a very beautiful outfit, primarily covered by garlands and Tulsi Manjaris. Here's a close-up of the face of Lord Nrsingadev, and his hands are covered by these decorations. The way that Lord Nrsingadev is worshipped in Mayapur is very much like the style of worship in South India. And I was telling the story this afternoon, I'll say it again. The deity of Lord Nrsingadev has big red eyes. And one day, the pujari, who was assigned to worship Lord Nrsingadev, felt, those who come to take darshan of Lord Nrsingadev, they may be afraid when they see these big red eyes. So he made an arrangement to have green eyes replace the red eyes. And then one day when he was doing the puja, he heard a voice that said, "Return my eyes." And he looked around. In Mayapur, the worship of Lord Nrsingadev has only one entrance. In many cases, there's the front where the public sees the deity, and then the back there's a pujari entrance. But in Mayapur, there's no pujari entrance. It's only the front. There's only one way in. That's the front, because it's walls all the way around otherwise. So he looked around and wondering, where did that voice come from? And he continued with the worship, and he heard it again 2 more times. "Return my eyes." So he became astonished and a little fearful. So when he finished the puja, he went and spoke with the head pujari, Jananivas, and said, "This is what happened." can you explain? And Janadiva said, I think he wants his eyes back. So he replaced the green eyes with the red eyes, and it's stayed like that since then. He's very affectionate, and that's what he wants, be known, at least to certain intimate devotees. And we're almost done. This is that same deity outfit. And in the front, you can see that many shilas. In the very front is a large Nrsinga Shila, but many Shalagram Shilas at the feet of Lord Nrsingadeva, and they're worshipped on a daily basis. And this is Mayapur during flood time. Sometimes the water of the Ganges just goes so high that the whole of the campus in Mayapur is covered in water. And here's the pujari, you see, is holding up a flower, offering a flower to the deity. They carry on with the worship of the Nrsingadev even in floods. But so far, the Nrsinga deity has never been completely submerged in water. He's too big to move. The other deities are really high, and he's much lower. But when they move the deities to their new situation, there's no way that the floods are going to get up that high. So he'll be safe. And we have this situation of knowing about Lord Nrsingadev and worship of Lord Nrsingadev and singing Nrsinga Kirtan through the grace of our disciplic succession, and particularly our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. So a fitting ending for this little presentation is offering our respects to Srila Prabhupada for introducing us to the proper understanding of the personality of Godhead in his form of Lord Nrsingadev. So I think I'll end there. That's the last slide. And if there's some discussion with those who are in the room, you can bring up whatever points you'd like. And otherwise we'll go on to the online questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. From Prahlad pastime, is it true that when the child is in the womb of the mother, if they hear spiritual topics, they remember more than when after they're born?
Is it true that a child in the womb will remember more than after they're born? Is that what you're asking? I never heard that one before. I don't know if it's true or not true. I don't know how many children remember what they heard in the womb. I think it's pretty exceptional because of Prahlad's situation. I don't think it's the standard. I never heard that question before.
So my other question, Maharaj, generally, the father will be more happy when the son is more powerful. The way you mentioned that Hiranyakashipu was not happy when Prahlad was more powerful, but the only thing that Prahlad did against Hiranyakashipu is that he is worshipping Lord Vishnu. So that is against Hiranyakashipu. So is that the that is because he is envious of Lord Vishnu?
Yes, that's why. That's why. And envy of Lord Vishnu goes to one who is dear to Lord Vishnu. Yes. The root is envy of the Supreme Lord. And then those that are carrying power or some endowment from the Supreme Lord, one is envious of such person because of envy to the Supreme Lord. Yes.
So it doesn't matter who is that person's son or...
It doesn't matter. He was more irritated because it's his own son, of all people. He's supposed to become the next king. He's the eldest son. He's supposed to become the next king. And he's more powerful than he is and deriving power from his enemy. Very angry. Okay?
One other question, Maharaj. I think Laghu Bhagavatamrita, in one of the slides, you showed that Nrsimhadev appeared before Kurma.
Yeah, this question came up earlier today. So
Generally, I mean, from the Dashavataras, we hear that Nrsimha came after Varaha. I mean,
the way I answered the question earlier today, the very same question, is, here's an added answer. That list of avatars is not necessarily a chronological listing, as we hear the Das avatars or the Canto 1, Chapter 3. They're not necessarily chronological. And second, what I said earlier today, was when there's over here in this part of the scripture some statement, and over there another statement that contradict one another. Right? If it's this, it can't be that. If it's that, it can't be this, kind of contradiction. I've seen that our acharyas conclude it's a different cycle of yugas, or in this case, a different day of Brahma, because in each day of Brahma, there's different manus. So the sequence can be like this during one day of Brahma, and like that another day of Brahma, or another cycle of the yugas, or something like that. That's a rendering. Like it happened just this morning, the discussion when Indra was offering his abhishek. In the Bhagavatam it says he went to a secluded place. In Padma Purana it says Yasoda and Nanda were there, and other associates of Braja, they were there. So the conclusion is it's a different yuga cycle, different appearance of Krishna in Braja. So it means a different day of Brahma. So when there's discrepancy or contradiction, there are these possibilities to consider. Okay? Yes? Behind you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. What is the significance of Chandan Yatra, which is now going on in Mayapur? So
it's not going on now in Mayapur. There's a period, Chandan Yatra. It's a festival. Yatra means, in this case, festival. So it's a festival where Chandan is applied to the deity for some period of time. And what's the significance of it? The significance of it is for the pleasure of the Lord. It comes at a time commonly when it's very hot. So a festival to cool the body of the deity by applying chandan. And it's not only in Mayapur, it's all over. It's all over ISKCON, it's all over where worship of the deity goes on. It's a standard. And so your question specifically, the purpose is to cool the body of the deity. You know the pastime with Madhavendra Puri and his deity Gopal in Vrindavan. And summers in Vrindavan are really hot. So the deity, Gopal, told Madhavendra Puri, get chandan and camphor to apply because it's very hot in the summer. But then, see, for a whole month he applied that sandalwood and camphor to the deity in Ramuna. So for a whole month. So it's not specifically Chandan Yatra, but the purpose is cooling, refreshing. And you've experienced, I'm sure, if someone applies a little sandalwood on your forehead, it's just very cooling and fragrant. So it's an offering of love during the warm season. Anything? No? Okay.
This is from Chandramukhi Mataji. Did Prahlad Maharaj stay in his mother's womb for 100 celestial years?
That's a long time, isn't it? Yes.
That was her question.
Okay.
This is Padmaja Mataji. Why would Lord Brahma grant Hiranyakashipu all those benedictions, assuming Lord Brahma was very well aware of all the ways in which the demon would misuse the powers bestowed?
Two answers. When you're in that demigod position like Brahma is, someone comes forward and asks for a benediction, you don't say, well, I'm sorry, you're a bad person, I can't give you that. Bad persons also undergo austerities, and they're awarded benedictions. Second is, at the end of this Leela, there's a description where Lord Nrsingadev warns Brahma, don't do this again. And then he does it again. And when you read, you can look up Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where that discussion takes place, where Narada, part 1, Narada goes to Brahmaloka and describes the virtue of Lord Brahma. And Brahma says, no. He cites his shortcomings, and one of those is, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead told me don't do it again, and I did it again. And so it's reasonable to not do it, not give somebody something powerful when they're a demon. So why give a demon benedictions? But demons also get powers. And who do they get the powers from? The powerful.
This is Radhika Priya Mataji. In the event of a difficult situation, for example, we were in the situation of natural disaster, a tornado, is it preferred to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or should we chant Nrsingadev Pranam Mantra?
Take your pick. Alternate between the two.
This is Kirti Prabhu's question. Could you please tell more pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur?
I've forgotten. I've heard, but I've forgotten. There's a book published by ISKCON Mayapur where Pankajangri and Jananivas are telling story after story. There's another book about pastimes with Jagannath, pastime after pastime, and I can't remember. But I'll tell you what, I'll see if I can find some of those stories in the course of the next few days. I'll recite some.
And this is Hari Prabhu from Boston. Prahlad incarnated as King Balika during Krishna's time, and the most recent appearance as Sri Raghavendra Swami, a saint in Madhva Sampradaya. Does ISKCON recognize this?
No. Not that I'm aware. It's the first I'm hearing this. So I should, before quickly just saying no, I'm unaware of anything like that. Sorry.
This is Shyama Mohini. We know that Lord Chaitanya only appears once in the life of Brahma.
No, once in a day of Brahma.
Once in a day of Brahma. How often does Lord Nrsingadev appear?
Well, this little reference from Sridhar Swami indicates not every cycle of the 4 yugas, but I've never seen or read anything definitive to say how often. Huh? No, she's saying how often does Lord Nrsingadev appear?
This is Chandana Mataji. It's not related to this class. She wants to understand about the principle of always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. We learnt in Bhakti Shastri class about stages of hearing and stages of remembering, and remembering comes after hearing. I feel that I struggle even with my hearing. I feel distracted and have to bring back my attention to hearing. So at my level, how to cultivate and come to the stage of always remember Krishna and never forget him?
Within your question is the answer. Continue practicing hearing, because remembrance doesn't mean like memorization. There's not that kind of remembrance. Remembrance is something that's already there and awakens, and now I remember. Like our relationship with Krishna is something that's there but forgotten, and then by careful chanting and hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam, comes remembrance, awakening of what we've forgotten. It's already there. So just keep on the hearing and chanting activities carefully performed.
She has a follow-up question. We had an exercise to write 5-year goals for our devotional practices. Is this reasonable to keep this as a goal in 5 years? Always remember Krishna and never forget him.
That's pretty high. But you can make progress towards achieving that. That's more realistic.
And this is Ranjita Mataji. Prahlad Maharaj was born in a demoniac family, but still he was a devotee. So does this connect to his past life? Any
Yes.
benediction given?
It's connected to his past life, and it's connected to hearing from Narada Muni. That's it. Okay. So we'll be hearing more about Lord Nrsingadev over the next few days, and certainly leading up till Thursday. I'm planning in the evening classes to shift to 7th canto, discussing topics about Lord Nrsingadev. And I'll see if I can find, if somebody knows where I can find it, you can send me the link of Pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev Deity in Mayapur. Or somebody may have that book and they can send some of those to me, then we can share them with everybody. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.